Welcome, everyone, back to another My Morning Constitution. We're here to not keep it under 10 minutes and also be unorganized. And we're going to call this session Bantering Bullshit. So lots of random commentary from yours truly, Leslie, Tina, myself as moderator, and Chris. So welcome.
Howdy.
Your morning coffee will wake you up. My morning constitution will lift you up. Now gather around, listen up.
Chris, tell us about your latest and greatest pandemic experience with food poisoning. That sounds exciting.
Yeah, well, the whole pandemic thing is fun. Food poisoning and pandemic are two different things, I guess. But yeah, I had my mom in town who flew across country. I had the experience of the flying on Delta, which was actually pretty awesome. She had a whole row to herself. Everything's nice and clean. Came out, and we were really enjoying ourselves. Then decided to go have a really good dinner at one of the high-end steakhouses that's a national chain. And the crazy thing is, ended up getting food poisoning off of oysters there. So that was a lot of fun. Well, at least we had fun until about an hour after dinner.
Off of oysters?
Yeah, off of oysters. So that's the only thing that my mom, my wife, and I all didn't share. So we got like the seafood tower, which I've never seen a tower that's only one level, but it was only one level. That's probably all that I could afford. So they should have called it a platter, not a tower.
That should have been a red flag right there.
Exactly. So yeah, we had the one level tower, and shared like the fun part on the crab. We had the of course we had like the shrimp, we had the oysters, and then there was, I think there's one other thing, and we all kind of shared that at the beginning, and which was really really good, really yummy. And except my wife didn't eat oysters, so she didn't eat the oysters, and my mom and I did. And then my mom had some awesome scallops. They were super amazing, really nice sauce on those. And then I had a blackened big eye tuna for dinner, and then my wife had a sushi roll and a few other things, and they were all really good. And we just did like a communal sharing thing. And then right about an hour after dinner, we get home, we're relaxing. My mom starts to have to go to the bathroom pretty quickly, and then I start getting the restroom breaks I couldn't refuse. So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, but I did find out if you call in and say, hey, you got food poisoning, they'll credit your dinner back. So we got another go round there.
Well, there you go. That's the positive in that story. I like that. And the sad
Yeah.
thing is, I love oysters. That makes me so sad to hear because they're honestly one of my favorite foods. And I
I do
couldn't
too.
imagine having food poisoning to oysters either, so it probably
Yep.
was pretty bad. So,
Yeah, well, it was funny. I called in like the restaurant, and they said, it's really only it only takes one or two in the bushel to kind of make that happen. I guess we got a bad part of the bushel, so just bad luck. But it's not going to deter me away from them. Yeah, and I'm definitely not deterred from the restaurant. I've been there a couple times, and this is one bad experience out of a bunch, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, but I mean the good news is I lost a little bit of weight that day, which I've needed because I've had nothing but biscuits and gravy and cornbread and all the yummy southern foods every day. So that I think the food poisoning helped keep the weight
7-day
down.
detox in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things. It's like your whole body's partying, enjoying the food and the drinks. And all of a sudden, somebody says, "Everybody out now!" So, party's
Who
over.
needs to do those 14-day juice plans when you can just have one or two bad oysters, right?
Exactly.
You should sell that as a health plan.
I think
Sadly,
they
there'd be people out there who'd be like,
I think they already
maybe I
have that
should
one.
look into that. Do you have a subscription program?
I think it's bulimia. I think that's the diet
Oh, that's
program for
true.
that.
Yeah.
Sadly, yes.
Yep. So yeah, so it was a fun time all around.
It's a great way to phrase it, though, where I just imagine this like high school party, right? Where mom and dad are home, where someone calls the cops for a noise complaint. I should have said college. Okay, fine. I'll correct that. College party. Okay. Right? It's like, oh crap, dad's home. Everybody
Yep.
out.
Everybody up. a- any way you can find, get out.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys ever have one of those? You
Uh,
got people hiding in the closets.
I only had one situation where in high school I was a junior and my boyfriend's best friend at the time lived on the lake. We'd always go wakeboarding and hang out, and they had the perfect yard for bonfires and just a really great house to hang out in general. And his parents were taking their youngest son to Disney World, and they were gone for the week. So he and my boyfriend lived across the peninsula, so his parents could technically see his best friend's house. And his parents were really strict and were completely against, obviously, underage drinking and other fun activities. So we had to think of how can we sneak over to this individual's house and have a house party while his parents are gone. So his parents left him the Chrysler minivan, and about a mile down the road was a Food Lion grocery store. So we all parked there. He took a couple trips with everybody crammed into the minivan, and he took all the seats out and left them in the garage. And so we were all laying down in the back as he drove slowly through the neighborhood and kind of bussed us into the garage, dropped us all off, went back to get the second group of kids. Had the best night. We really didn't do anything harmless. I mean, we had some, I don't know, Smirnoff Ice or whatever kids drank as a junior or senior in high school. Cleaned up everything by the time we left that night. You would have never known. We missed one bottle cap
Wow.
that was underneath a couch in their family room, and his mother came home and cleaned the house, and she found it, and she knew by that
Oh
moment and how he
no.
reacted to it that he threw a party. Everyone's parents got contacted. I was I was
No.
grounded for 2 weeks. My car was taken
What?
away, and I didn't even do anything. I mean, I stuck to a house party, and yes, I had some beer that our older friends, their brothers and sisters who were in college bought for us. But it was just innocent fun playing pool in their game room and, hanging out and playing loud music and drinking. And I think a couple people were, outside trying to be cool, smoking cigarettes and that. But no one would have ever found his one bottle cap. And she went crazy and contacted everyone's parents that he was good friends with and nailed us all. And it's a really funny story because you would have never known. I mean, we had this planned out for 2 weeks before they went on vacation that he was going to throw a house party. And we were so close because everybody, like a couple of us came over the next day and cleaned everything up and it looked perfect. It was one beer bottle cap did us in.
Wow. Now that's a story. See, that's the kind of thing where you're so glad you asked, right? Like, no
Yeah.
kidding. That's strict too. Holy cow.
Yeah, my mom was not having it. She doesn't know half the things that I actually got away with in high school. Or honestly, I wouldn't even start to tell her the college stories because there just came a point where I'm like, it's not even worth telling her even now because I don't know how she would
Now there's a
react.
question. Do you
But
have something that you would absolutely die if your parents knew? Like if my parent knew this, I don't think I could talk to him ever again.
I don't know, like how bad are we
Uh-oh.
talking
Hey,
about?
Chris, are you
More,
trying to talk? I think his mic might be.
uh-oh. Yeah, I
Uh-oh. He
see he's
says,
unmuted.
yeah. He said, it looks like my audio is not working. Son of a bitch. Well, we left it to 10 minutes. How about that, folks? How about that? This is podcasting in real time. We're going to have to pick this back up on the next bullshit banter number 2. Ah, CJ.
All right, am I back in?
Oh, awesome.
Nope.
Yep. This is wonderful. This is...
Yeah.
We should play this. Everyone who's in podcasting goes, God, I had no idea how much back end logistics was in podcasting. And maybe we
Yeah,
should just start
exactly.
playing this stuff. Like, this is it, people.
Yep.
This is us.
Exactly. It is. It is. Like every time that happens, we're just like, oh, somebody took another shit. There it goes.
Oh, that's right. Insert toilet sound here. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Every
Insert
time you hear a toilet
sound.
sound,
That's
it's
right.
because
Oh,
You'll
geez.
know. Then you'll know.
all the podcasting stuff dumped.
Yep, exactly.
And that's
Oh
a,
no, now you're
commercial
breaking
break
up.
brought to you by Caster.
What was your idea to actually flush the toilet and record it as a exit?
I think it was basically when everything broke. Says, "Oh shit, taking a dump," and we're over with. So
So, CJ, I don't think we got to hear your story. Do you have a story? See, if I had to guess, your parents know everything about you, CJ.
pretty much, yep. They basically know everything that goes on, so they get to hear about it. I'm I'm no I'm not shy to tell my parents an embarrassing story no matter what. Plus, I got a pretty crazy brother, so I don't really compare to a lot of the stuff that he says. So
I love that. I love that you can tell them anything. I think my mom just, I don't know, she was a very sheltered child, so she doesn't understand younger individuals having fun or why they want to have fun because she never had the opportunity to have fun because she essentially wasn't allowed to do anything as a child or growing up, which may have led to why she fled the house as soon as she was 18, got married when she was 19, and had me shortly after that. Not, I don't know, but that's a good assumption. But
Well, that sounds fun. She had to, have you. So,
yeah, I mean, I was a delightful mistake. I'm pretty positive. But yeah, so I mean, she laughs at stuff now, but I just never really told her that much when I was younger. I think she always knew that I was a good kid. I always, I never got in trouble at school. I listened to exactly what the teacher said to do. Always had good grades. Like, there was never really a reason for her to be upset with me, but I also
mm-hmm.
didn't tell her everything that I was doing. I was you're always at your best friend's house or spending the weekend at your best friend's house, but maybe we were going somewhere else or to the beach for a weekend or
yep.
but I was really, I mean, I was a pretty good kid. It was always interesting because my parents are divorced. So when I went to my father's house, my father was like, "You're a kid. You're a good kid. Go do what you want to go do. Go hang out with your friends. Make good decisions. Like, go have fun. I know what, kids do." And he never, was like, "Come home at a decent hour. Tell me where you are. Go to the movies. Go to the mall." Like, I never really had any restrictions with him because I had full trust. My mom didn't have that trust because she wasn't trusting when she was younger, so it was just kind of instilled in her nature to be that way. But I should tell her a couple funny stories and see how she would react. She'd probably just roll her eyes and look at me, say, "Oh, glad I know now and not then."
Wow,
Yeah.
that's not a bad reaction, though. That's not bad at
No, I
all.
don't think it would be bad. I think that, I mean, nothing was ever bad. It was, oh, my best friend's brother would buy us beer and we'd hang out at her house, or we'd have our boyfriends come over to a friend's house and we'd watch a movie. I mean, like innocent high school stuff. It was never bad. Or we were at somebody's house, but we were on the lake at a friend's house when I was supposed to be at work or something. Like, it wasn't bad stuff, but there was one time, I do have one story that was at a very Christian girl's birthday party, and of my best friend and I went to the birthday party together, and we were riding with one of our guy friends, and he asked us, "Hey, when I pick you and your friend up from your house, do you have an extra like 20-ounce pop bottle, soda bottle?" I'm like, "Yeah, probably somewhere like in recycling." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "There's a safety pin and maybe some foil." I'm like, "Okay, cool. So what are we gonna do?" And so he picks us up, and it was just this mutual good guy friend of ours we went to school with. And he pulls out his wallet, like this little, like a quarter sized thing of weed, and he was making a homemade bong. I was like, "Oh, cool." So we went to this really Christian girl's birthday party that was outside. And, and we went behind the bushes in their backyard. And he was like, "Do you want to try the homemade bong?" And a bunch of us were like, "Sure." Well, then her parents come out and they smell the pot. Parents call the police. The police are coming. So my best friend calls her brother. He comes racing to pick us up. We go home. obviously the parent is already on the phone with the people that she identified in her backyard smoking a bong. And we really didn't know what we were doing. And my mom, I get home and she had enough time to pull my aunt, who was an RN, over to our house and bought an at-home drug test and made me and my best friend be in a cup at home while my aunt,
What?
as a nurse, explained to me all the reasons on why you shouldn't smoke pot. And it was so embarrassing. So that was a fun story.
Yeah. I
Like,
think I think for me, my stories don't compare to what my mom grew up with in the environment. So my mom grew up in the '60s, or she was born. She was born in the '60s with her, and she had three brothers and one sister. And my mom was a little bit of a wild child. She wasn't quite the youngest, but close to the youngest. And basically, her and her younger brother were like the really big crazy ones. And my mom would tell me stories where she would cut school and then drive 3 hours to the beach, run out of gas money, so they would dry out some seaweed on the beach and sell it as pot, so that they would make money to come back home.
I
So,
love it.
yeah. And then they used to live around the corner from a bar. And my uncle, to make extra dollars at night, what he would do is he would take this like stuffed dummy that he made out of a whole bunch of clothes and everything. He'd lay it across the street and tie a rope to it. So when people were drunk and trying to drive home, he would yank the what looks to be a body across the street, and they would freak out and drive into a ditch. And then my uncle would come out and he would help people out of the ditch and pull them out for a couple extra bucks. So I've got a very inter or sales focused family.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
No,
it.
that's entrepreneurship, is what that
Exactly,
is.
it is. It is.
If I was your grandmother, I would have told your mother when she was younger and said, "You know what? I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. Good job.
Exactly. Yep.
Way to be creative."
Yep. So when when the is well, it's really no wonder that only me and my brother were the first ones to graduate high school without a police record out of all my cousins. So I think we did pretty good with that one.
So what I'm hearing is we were all the good kids. Even though we have our
Yep.
own stories, we're still the good ones.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Exactly. It shaped us to be who we are today. You know,
Yep.
I think you need to have those moments. I'm
Yep.
just jealous that I didn't try outside seaweed on the beach
Yep.
and make a straight up profit off of selling it. I think that's awesome. I
Yep.
want to know what people paid for it. I would love to hear her sales pitch. Like what did you actually say and what were they paying you?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question for her when she joins the podcast. That'd be hilarious. Yeah. Of course, I do my fair share of falling off the rails on things, but I'm only carrying the torch from what's already been lit.
Mhm.
See, I've done a bunch of things and I hid them, but I waited for 7 to 8 years outside of the constitutional clause where you can't get in trouble for it. Then I told my parents those things.
I see. Okay. See, that's very smart. I think even to this day, if I told my parents anything really, well, there's some exceptions. Pretty much anything that they would still be mad at me to this day. It
Yeah,
took me
my dad is still finding out things that I did in high school, and it's been almost 20 years later. He's like, "Why the hell is this broke on my truck?" And I'm like, "I got a good story for you, Dad. You're gonna like it." Yep. I'm like, I know exactly where that came from.
Now, I kind of suspect like my mother was very sheltered. My dad, yes and no. But I wonder, Tina, like your mom, if maybe she did get to see some other things. And maybe, because I always feel like my parents acted like they didn't do stuff and that they were very good and sheltered. I don't know. Maybe I've kind of created this alter ego of my parents where, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, there's no way you didn't do any of this stuff when you were my age.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure it was just a parenting tactic of, when I was your age, I wasn't allowed to do X, Y, Z. You should be grateful that you can be out of the house until 9 o'clock. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere after school. I think that was just a tactic. I'm pretty sure she had to have sneaked out of the house or gave herself some sort of life. My grandparents were extremely, extremely strict individuals, so I never would have wanted to live underneath their roof. So she probably did have a pretty lame childhood, but I'm pretty sure she got out and did some things. So like she just doesn't want to lead on to believe. So she always
Mm-hmm.
keeps that, clean slate look with her parents and with me, which I don't believe. But I think when I was younger, that was just a tactic that she used. My dad, though, he was always the lenient parent. It was, well, give me a reason not to trust you, and until then, you have my trust. And I was always 10 times more open with him and would obey him to a T because he gave me that room for trust and flexibility. To where my mother, I was always pushing the limits on what she allowed me to do because she was always strict, even when I was doing everything she asked me to do. Like, if you clean your room and you do this, yes, you can go to the movies with so and so. But then it would be like, well, now you can't. I don't want you to go. Where that never happened with my
Oh,
dad. So it was kind of like I had two different personalities I could, switch on and off depending on who I was with. So it was interesting. But my dad and his parents were the
yeah.
same way, and his two brothers are the same way. It was like, trust me until you give me a reason not to trust you, and then we'll talk. But
So what would your dad do then if you cleaned your room or didn't clean your room?
my dad was always reward based. Like you have things that you need to do every day as a young adult, right? But if you're going above and beyond or you're helping me on something, it would be, Amanda, like, thank you so much. You did a really great job. I really appreciate, the effort you put in. Like, there was always a reward to let me know that I'm being recognized by him, or, hey, if you help do this, a couple dollars to go down to I don't know, the convenience store to get snacks or something, and then you felt cool like being able to ride your bike a couple blocks down the road by yourself, when you're younger,
Yep.
middle school or whatnot. So yeah, he was always very reward based. And I think that's what built our trust that him and I still have today, because I'm really open with my dad. But yeah, he said his dad would do the same way. Like, you work for what you get, and you work hard, you play hard, and that's his motto for life. So it was pretty cool. So I'm glad that I had that other side of it to have that kind of build who I am today versus the extremely chaotic strict side.
Yep.
But yeah.
Sounds like we had a pretty similar upbringing. My dad was the same way, especially about the whole, you work and reward and you get what you get. I remember this pretty fondly. I built this fort up under the deck in our house because our house sat on a hill. And I'd done everything I could to get all my chores done, and I got my $5 for like the work week and like doing extra work around the house and everything. Then he took me down to like the local convenience store, and $5 as a kid, I thought like I was the king of everything. I bought a bunch of Funyuns, some Snicker bars, and everything. I packed my fort full of goodies, and it was just like I just remember that, and always having that risk and always that reward and extra work and stuff like that, and that has kind of drove me in my career a lot and personal life in general. But and then having that safe place to screw up is what you're saying, Tina. Like my parents always fostered that. So and then they always would tell me stories that I can come close to, but I can't beat most of them. So
Wow.
So were you if you had to put you and your brother side by side, would you say you were the more of the golden child, or would you say your brother was the one who took the heat of a lot of time? Or was it you were throwing him under the bus, so he naturally had to take the heat a lot of the time?
I was the one always having to do the work and getting the extra um, talking tos on, like you got to be better, you got to be the better person, you got to do all that kind of stuff. And my brother was kind of the one that had everything handed to him or all this other stuff. And if you listen to him, he's got the opposite perspective where he always had to live in my shadow and work really hard. So I think it's kind of a tit for tat thing. I think we're both two very different people at the end of the day, and it takes us a while to come to an understanding of each other's perspective.
Wow, that is literally my situation with my sister. So she always felt like she lived in my shadow, but I always felt like I had this really heightened expectation on across the board, you know? But
Yep.
we actually later in life, so we never saw eye to eye on anything until probably our late 20s. And then we became best friends. And we're very different still in some pretty major ways. But we now we've really found like delight in that, you know, and it's really nice, you know, but that's so wild. I wonder if that's just a very typical dynamic. You know, I was the youngest of two, or am. But it's just really wild because that was exactly our dynamic.
Yeah, it really could be. And I think as you get older, you start to come on more common grounds, and in your relationship with your siblings, and then your parents too.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. You know, I circling back on like the money piece or reward. I heard this a while back that your first memory of money, the first memory you can have of money, represents how you treat it now. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. My first memory was I remember we would always clean the house on the weekends. My mom still owns a cleaning company to this day. We would clean the house, and my mom would crank gospel music, and we would always work for something. And the very first thing I wanted was a Cabbage Patch doll. It was a very big deal in the 90s, and you could crimp her hair. I still remember that the crimper was this like really ugly pink. I just remember, it's crazy, right? She had like this tan hair and I wanted to crimp it so bad. So my mom said, if you help me clean this house, we're going to go get that doll today. And I'm like, done.
Nice.
You're never going to ever see somebody clean this house better. Yeah. So I always felt like I very much, you know, if I worked hard, I got to play hard. And so I don't know if it's true, but we'll have to see if it pans out for you guys.
Yeah, I have to agree. It was always, little chores here and there. Would you, I don't know, it could be a task of, could you, I don't know, trying to think of little things that my dad would have me do, like stuff envelopes for stuff for his business or make copies or, do things to help him around his business during the day when I could be outside riding my bike and that. And, to Chris's point, he could have given me $5, $10, and I thought it was $100 in cash. And there was a there was a Rite Aid. I can't tell you what it was when I was little, but it's today in the town where I'm from. It's a Rite Aid now. And they had a craft aisle that had all the crayons and the pens and notebooks and stuff. And I would be able to go in there by myself. And I, felt really cool going in there without a parent and being able to get a notebook or a coloring book or something fun to, to play with for the day. And I always thought it was the coolest thing. And then I remember my dad took me to the bank to open up a kid's bank account, and it came with this booklet that had stickers. And for every $20 you put in your savings account, you got a sticker and a little prize from the bank. And when you had $100 in the bank, you got like this stuffed animal. And then when you got to 100, it was like a game for kids to save money. And I remember that was my goal. I wanted whatever the prize was for $500, and it was something really silly and like really cheap, but I thought it was the coolest thing. And I would go spend every summer with my dad. And so I saved up to the $500. I filled out the whole sticker chart with him, and obviously he helped me like reach the goal at the end. But I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I have to agree because my dad taught me about saving money, treating yourself as a reward when you deserve it and things like that. And then I feel that sometimes I have irresponsibility where I just kind of wing it and buy something because you might want it or think that you need it. And I feel like I get that from my mother's side because they weren't the greatest with cash, her and my stepdad. So yeah, I definitely agree because I'll spend money when I need to, but I'm pretty cheap at the end of the day, at the end of the day
I think you bring up a good important
on
part
certain
though.
things.
I think having impulse buying to an extent is important to where you just go buy something and it's like okay cool that's something I want to do, but it's not something that you do all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely do it. And I do question myself after I do it. So say I walk into Target, like every other woman on
Yes.
this planet, and you go in, you go to buy one thing, and you walk out with like three sweaters, a pair of shoes, and something from the home goods section, right? That's pretty average Target trip once a month, I feel. And I always regret it. And I end up taking back half or almost
I was
all of
just
what
gonna
I
say, do you
what I
return it?
purchased. Yes, I do it all the
Yes.
time because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this
Yep.
is great. I'm not going to ever find another one in the size. It's going to be all sold out. I really need the sweater that I don't need." And then, 3 days later, I'll be like, "You know what? I really don't need it. It's still in the bag. I'll take it back." So, I think it's good. I got a little bit of both worlds, but I'll definitely impulse buy.
All right, I got it.
But I also think about it.
I, I got to confess on my latest impulse buy. It
Oh, I
happened
can't
last
wait.
week. So I was over at Smart and Final, which is a grocery store over here on the West Coast, and I'm walking through the aisles. I've always been a big fan of chicken wings, and I just had me walking through this section, and they had breaded fish nuggets, and I was like, man, it sounds really really gross, but I've never had one before, so screw it, I gotta buy it. So it had like the TGI Fridays or whatever label. It could have been Chili's. I can't remember which one of those. They're the same menu anyways. So I don't know why they're not the same franchise. But so I grab it, I throw it in the box, and I cook those things, and they come out, and they're nice, they're breaded. I took one bite, and I was like, man, this is terrible. And I just finished food poisoning, and I couldn't eat it. So I was like, man, this is awful. So that was my latest impulse buy of the week. But I don't I don't know why I want to bring that up, but I just got to let you know, do not try the fish nuggets that they sell there. They look awesome, not worth it.
No, note taken. And what grocery store was that? So everybody knows.
It was Smart and Final. So they look so good. The picture looks amazing. I cooked them. They came out just like the picture. I take one bite of them. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I mean, it seemed like a
I
healthier
hope they
version
were
of chicken nugget, but
I hope they were shaped as little fish too.
oh
Like the little
no, no,
kids cut out of chicken nuggets.
no, no, no! It looked like chicken wings, like the little chicken, the breaded chicken wings look just like those,
Oh, they
except for they said it's
what?
made of fish.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, you okay, so they physically look
yeah, except for they're fish on the inside. And I was like, oh, well, that's a healthier style.
I'll tell you what, we just took a hell of a roller coaster. Tina, listening to your story about the bank and your dad, and I'm like, God bless America that we have banks doing this, right? And then we get to fish chicken wing looking nuggets. And I'm like, here we are
this
again. It is 2020.
It is.
this
Just when you
banter
think.
is amazing.
It's unbelievable.
I
This
mean,
is,
we
we
have to
learned
be
so
real though.
much. We
How many times
cried.
have we
We
done
laughed.
have we exactly. We've all done it. I mean, we all have bad impulse buys. I have plenty. So, I I think Chris's chicken wing shaped fried fish fillets, whatever you want to call them, probably wasn't that bad at
Fish
the end of
wings
the
is
day.
what I
But
was
now,
calling them.
but now I'm intrigued to where I want to go to my local grocery store and I would like to
Yeah.
impulse buy those just because I'm now very
Oh.
curious.
We learned this about you. When you think there's a rule, it's Tina push the rules.
Yep,
That's right. That's
exactly.
right.
Rules are just
Ah.
suggestions.
Exactly. They're just
On where to push
guidelines.
the line. It's not even, it's a suggestion
Exactly.
on where to start pushing. That's what it is.
Yep.
You know, push here. I hate to say it, but I have to go. I
Yeah.
could do another 10 minutes.
Same here.
I say
I
that
know.
obviously
I
tongue
think
in
we
cheek,
should pick back
since
up
we
with
never go 10
impulse
minutes.
buys.
Yeah, I like the idea of the impulse buys.
Okay.
I think there
Okay.
could be some really
Yeah.
interesting stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's think on that.
I have some.
I've got some
Oh,
that
this
involve
is
some Four
good.
Locos.
Okay, this is good. Yes. All right, gang. We'll see you next week. Thank you
All
for
right.
joining.
Time with